today we will start to go inside the topic of the testing and benchmarking in triathlon. We will go through the different types of testing. And the most important thing that when I was preparing the presentation, I was thinking like how to make this presentation as practical as possible and as useful as possible for you, for coaches who are every day training athletes. And I put it a lot of my experience and practical tips and real life case studies that will help you to apply this knowledge into your practice. So let's jump straight to business, and let's go to the this amazing topic. I love the testing and sports science thing, and all of my work actually is basing on the sports science. I mean, I worked with the different types of athletes, with different types of sports. And the main idea that I think is crucially important is to understand where you are moving and what is the direction. And I want to start this presentation with a very important phrase that I think is the phrase that actually really connected to the peak performance and with the data-driven coaching, that you can improve just what you can measure. And then the main question, so what we should measure and how we should measure it, the main question of today's topic. And so we will jump deep inside, like what exactly parameters we should measure, what benchmarks are, and how we, using this test, can improve the performance of our athletes or improve even other parameters that I would say, I would tell you. So for more than 15 years, I'm working in professional sport and I started to work in the laboratory, and I did my first test in 2007 with elite athlete. And from that moment, I was working in the lab, I was working in the field, I was doing tests for elite athletes in different type of environments. And I learned a lot from this, and this knowledge I would love to share with you in this presentation. So one of the most important things is to understand why we need testing. And sometimes I see people who are doing just test for tests because like everyone is doing tests. So maybe I should do also VO2 max test, for example. Why it's like fancy and popular and the person is running with a mask. Okay, I will go and do this. But actually behind the testing, there are a lot of different reasons why we should do this. And I tried to put all of them in this slide, but actually you see a lot of points. And then I realized that I cannot do this. So I just put it the most important one that I want to point out today. But actually there are much more reasons than only this why you should do testing. First of all, the testing is crucially important for track your physical fitness, to understand the current level of performance, what level of the athlete you have now, what is the fluctuation of the physical fitness during the season. And the most important part that I love most of all is from season to season, from year to year. And when you work in the team and with the athletes for many, many years, so you can see actually how the data is changing, how his fitness level is changing, and you are using the data so you can control more the physical performance and form of athlete and taper better and picking better and know and make the loads and trainings more individual for the athlete, for each athlete from your team. And for example, I worked for more than 12 years for the national speed skating team. and one of our athletes when he beat his world record. So we took all the data that we had, and it was really interesting to analyze them, not only when we were doing the recommendation for the trainings and for the recovery, but also we, after his success, we did our work and analyzed all the data related to his performance backwards. And also we found a lot of very interesting information that helped us for the future with the same athletes and with the other athletes also. Also, it's very important to use the testing for the individualization of the loads prescription. So you can define individual intensity, training zones. If you train with in cycling training, you can adjust loads with the power. So make the loads more individual. When you have already a lot of data that you accumulated with the athlete, so you can also see the early signs of the overtraining. So when you see that your athlete is not improving, when you see that when you are increasing load, but the athlete performance is going down, so it's a very clear sign of overtraining, and you can decrease load faster. Or for example, if you see that the intensity is going quite faster than needed, you also can decrease the intensity to prevent injuries. And this is also a very important part of the story. And of course, with all these tests and all this data, you can make your training more specific, and you can base on two very important parts. You can base on the athlete's feeling, how he feels, how he's going on different tests and different questionnaires. And then from the other point, you can analyze the data, use special softwares, see different training stress scores and so on, and then also adjust the training using the data. And this is very innovative approach when you use the data also, not only the feeling of the athlete, but together feeling and the data to adjust the training. And of course, it's very important to assess the progress because also it's a part of the game. Like athlete should be motivated, and athlete can be really motivated when he sees the progress. And maybe sometimes he cannot see the progress in the finish list, in the protocol, but you can maybe see different small progression during the test. And if you show to the athlete, look, your economy improved, so this can also motivate athlete. And in speed skating, for example, the sport where there are 10 athletes in 1 second, this is quite important to understand, like how you can improve 0.0 second. And triathlon also is becoming very fast sport, where it's very important to improve in every discipline. So, and the data can also provide you information how to improve in each discipline and what you can improve in every athlete in each discipline. So it's also a really great key to balance and optimize different sports inside triathlon, and maybe to see that, okay, with this athlete, we should improve swimming, and he will, his general result will be better. And with another athlete, maybe you should work more on bike thing and body position, and improve his power and improve his VO2 max in bike. And then, so is the same triathlon guy, but sometimes you can improve by one discipline, and it's okay. Or maybe see that one discipline is worse than another one and improve in this discipline. And then when you have an athlete for many, many years, as I mentioned, so you can go through all the data and understand more or less his model of the peak performance, which numbers are related to the peak performance. and then to already to know where you need to bring him during the period of the preparation. Already have exact numbers of his aerobic capacity, anaerobic capacity, other parameters that you like anthropometry also, for example, body fat percentage. So more or less they are the same from year to year. And this is also the really nice tool how you can do this. And here are some examples from the practice how you can apply the tests in the real life. So for example, you can test different parameters of athlete, for example, VO2 max, maximum lactate steady state, running economy, and others. And so using this test, you see different numbers in this exactly this athlete. And then you can see, okay, his VO2 max is not so high. Maybe I should focus more on the training to improve his VO2 max. And then with this, I can improve performance of exactly this athlete and make the training more individual. And of course, the exercise intensity zones, so they can be adjusted by, they can be done by heart rate, by power, depending on the sport. But still, the training zones concept is very useful for the individualization and targeting of the specific systems for triathlon. And we are speaking not only about the performance test, but also I really recommend you to think about the test that can show that the nervous system is also tired, and sometimes even physically athlete can be okay, but his nervous system is already tired, and there are different types of questionnaires and tests, like for example, taping test that show you that the nervous system is already tired and you need to give some rest to athlete. And yes, there are different types of tests. I divided it in 3 groups. Lab testing, test that you need to go to the special facility and do test in the lab in the special environment. The good point of this test that the reliability of this test are very high, and is normally the gold standard test, and the typical error of the measurement is low. So you can really rely on the data of this test and do this test for during the season to understand how your athlete parameters of different system are changing, like economy, like VO2 max, like lactate threshold, his metabolic efficiency, and others. But normally this test can be quite expensive, and maybe the laboratories are not available in your region. But it's a good testing. It's good to have laboratory test. Then other group of testing, it's a field testing, and they are easy to perform, and we will discuss today how to perform field testing. So you can do them, you don't need a special equipment, you don't need the laboratory, you don't need to go anywhere. So you can do this type of test in your training, and this test really can provide you a lot of information about the thresholds, about the fitness level of the athlete. So you can really rely on the fit test and use this data for athlete assessment and for the changing of the training program and planning of the training program and all things related to individualization. So you can rely on this test. And then the last part, last block of the test that also I find quite useful is different type of the test of perceived exertion, of the psychological test, like questionnaires, scales. It can be like personal feeling of the muscle soreness, or for example, there is a POMS questionnaire that can provide you information of the psychological status and maybe some early signs of overtraining. So these type of tests are also very useful if you have incorporated them in the like regular testing. And yeah, like you can do some questionnaires, some bigger questionnaires once in a month, for example. But some easy questions like how do you feel this load was for you from 1 to 10, and athlete can answer like it was 5, 6. So already it's some information for you. And I like to do the, if I don't have possibility to measure athletes and have any test, to have any number that don't have any number is better. So you can just ask them how you sleep from 1 to 10, how you feel from 1 to 10. And even this data will, in the long run, will provide you a lot of information about the training adaptation of your athletes. And all these type of tests are really important, but still sometimes you can see very very small changes in the test results. For example, if you work with elite athletes, so sometimes for me it was difficult to find any differences in some tests, but I was looking for very small changes, because in the elite sport, even 0.5% of change is significant. And especially for the sport where the difference is really small, some small parameters that are changing, or some small adjustments that you can do in the training using the data approach can be crucial. And I know a lot of triathlon coaches who is using the data-driven approach. And me, myself, I'm also working now with a triathlon athlete, and we also use a lot of data, not a lot, but the data that we need for training adjustment. And we really found very interesting outcome. For example, like before we were programming more training in the classical blocks, and then we realized that for this athlete we don't need the training blocks anymore. He is so good that he is recovering faster than the normal athlete that we used to work with the coach who are collaborating. And then now we are testing different types of periodization with him, and it's really interesting. So it wouldn't be possible without the data, and now having the data, so we can do different adjustments of his training program. So how to plan the testing session in your day-by-day training plan? So there are 3 parameters that I will explain now that are important. First of all is the frequency of the testing session. So lab testing, you should not do this like every week or every month. For me, in my practical approach, we used mostly the lab testing in the baseline when athlete begin the season. So to is what we have in the beginning of the season, and we normally compared it to the previous years. So sometimes athletes, they were coming from the vacation in a very bad shape. Sometimes athletes were coming in a good shape when they were doing something and trying to maintain the fitness, but doing some cross sport activities. And then also important to do the lab testing after important training blocks and before main races, if you can. So it's like the suggestion, not the strict recommendation, but it's also good to have this data to understand, like, okay, before a race, the athlete was in this condition and had these numbers. So for the next year, I know already more or less what to expect and what if the competition went well and you are satisfied, so you can make some you can already use this data for the future season with this athlete. And then the field testing I recommend to do every 8 weeks, and it's great to do it also after the major training blocks. So when you finish the block, to understand what was the improvement after this training block. And so normally when you go through the training period, you target different energy systems and targeting different training systems. You can, with the testing, see was it successful or not. Maybe you need to have more load of any of the systems, and maybe you need to have some changes in your in the athletes training, or not really. So only with data you can understand, because like individual response of the athlete to the trainings also can be different. And also the important thing when you plan testing, it's the environment. So you need to organize more or less the same environment, same time of the day, same nutrition, and same weather to have more or less the same results. And also you need to prepare the tools for the data collection. So it can be different types of wearables. Now in the market, we have a lot of wearables that you can use for the data collection. So I would not say like as much as possible. No, not really. But you need to have like exactly data collectors the data collection tools that you need. And so when we speak about different types of tests, we need to understand like which system we want to target. And when we speak about the aerobic performance, and triathlon is the one of the, for me, is most difficult aerobic sports. So there are parameters and there are systems that we can target with the training, like VO2 max and cardiac output. And we work a lot with the oxygen transport. And for example, here we can target the total hemoglobin mass with the altitude training, or with a different type of aerobic training. And then oxygen extraction, the mitochondrial efficiency is also very important part of the story. So also should be specific training targeting the mitochondrial and improving their efficiency. So with the testing, you can understand in which part of this chain there is a problem, and also target more the trainings, the systems with the special trainings. Maybe more for the mountains, for increase the total hemoglobin mass and oxygen transport. Maybe do more VO2 max trainings if your athlete needs to improve the VO2 max. Maybe do more intensity sessions for increase the mitochondrial efficiency, and that will be great. So let's go for the some lab testing and field testing. Like I will go through the different tests that are important for triathlon, and I will split them for the lab and field tests. So the body composition is really important parameter and is really related to performance and to the VO2 max. So you can do tests in the labs using the gold standard test, like the air displacement and DEXA scan. Maybe you heard about it. Is really great also to see the decrease of the bone density and the Rett syndrome. And then also in the field, you also can follow the body composition using the anthropometry, doing the skin fold tests. And here are some benchmarks for the triathletes. And also there are So you can find individually for your athlete which percentage of the fat and percentage of the muscle is his ideal one for the peak performance. And then with a nutritionist uh, or uh, just following the recommendations, go to these special target um, body composition parameters. And then uh, and then when we go to the already fitness testing, here are the testing metrics for different disciplines: swim, bike, and run. So here you can find the laboratory test and the field test. So you can use this test for your practice. And let's go through the protocols of this test. I will not explain the protocols in detail, so I put these protocols in the slides, so you can just take the slides and do this test. Here is described in the detail about the protocol. So what is important for us is understand the different parameters: the aerobic one, critical swim speed, and anaerobic capacity. For cycling, normally the regular test at the functional threshold power. So here's the protocol, how you do this. And then you calculate FTP, and then you calculate the FTP, the zones from the power from FTP. And then also you can do tests in the lab, the VO2 max test with the RAM protocol when the load is increasing gradually during the test. And for the running, the 20-minute time trial is also like FTP for the running. Here is the protocol for this test. And also you can use this test for the training zone, for the, yes, training zone determination. And then also you can do the VO2 max test. And then from the VO2 max test, you can understand the training zones, threshold, anaerobic threshold, and also in the lab you can do the exercise metabolism test. Also, it's called like running economy. And in the elite athletes, they already are not improving with the anaerobic threshold or VO2 max. In the very elite level, they can just improve with the exercise with the running economy. And also this can be a sign for you that like we are going to the elite, like for this athlete, you already need different type of trainings that will increase his running economy, biking economy, swimming economy, and so on. Here are some benchmark for the VO2 max for the different disciplines for male and for females. I also just give you these tables so that you can have this. And here is some case study that it's the athlete who I was working with. So here you can see the his data in the lab test. His heart rate in the first in the first test is the yellow one. His heart rate in the second test after 3 months is the blue one, and then the lactate level, the gray one, left one, and then the orange one is the second test. So you can see with the arrows how this athlete improved after the 3 months of training, after the training block. His heart rate decreased on the same power, and then his lactate also, all the graph went left. And also this means that he became more efficient, and in the same lactate, well, in the same power, he's having less lactate. That also great for the performance. So this is how in the graphs we can see that our athlete improved. And then using these graphs, also it's really great to show to the athletes these graphs and explain the things. And yes, it's really motivating to see the improvement. And sometimes if you don't see any improvements, it's also really great, because now you can analyze the training program, and then understand why you hadn't the improvement and then change something in the program to have the improvement. And then after that, you can also work with when you have the data, so you can do target training. And here I put some of examples. For example, if you need to improve the VO2 max in your athlete, so this is some examples of the short one and the long one training, interval training for the running and for the cycling. But you know better than me how to train athlete to improve their performance and improve their VO2 max. Here, just some examples to just to make this line from the testing, from the data that we see, from the decision that we make that we need to improve VO2 max, then to the training. So this is important to have this connection because sometimes I see that there are people in the lab who are just testing. There are people in the field who doesn't care about the test in the lab and do their test. But for me, it's really great to combine these approaches and connect the practice and laboratory and make advantage of combination of these two fields. And also here are some benchmarks for the female male triathletes for the 1 kilometer swim test. And then also for the data collection and data analysis is great to use different types of software. I love to use Training Peaks with my athletes. Training Peaks, I mostly use this type of application. And then also great to use all these different parameters to assess your athlete, like his recovery, the training load, training stress score, heart rate variability. So these are important parameters that we can also collect, put in this software, like in Training Peaks. Now we can put a lot of additional metrics. I love to do this, and then to see how this data is connected to the training loads and body response and fitness fatigue, all this to the power changes and all these data, if you have them in one place. So it will provide you a lot of information that can help you to make your training plans and your training more data driven. So the main benchmarks for the triathlon that you can use, like in the end of the presentation, are listed here. Of course, there are much more different benchmarks, different parameters that you can use. Also that I mentioned, like running economy, and maybe some coaches are more going to the critical power concept. So this is more individual thing, and it depends that which concept you like more and you feel is more connected to your training philosophy. But these metrics are like the gold standard, the basic one that is great to use in analyzing the training progression. So and then great to when you analyze the results, so it's great to have these benchmarks to more or less understand between comparing your athlete with a model characteristic of the sport. But also you can use, you can see the difference, how it's like the general line, the trend of the performance. And sometimes you don't need to have the number. You don't need to be focused on improving the number. You need to be focused on improving the trend. For example, I recommend this for the field test, or for the tests that you know that are not really precise. For example, when you use body composition analysis, but not the laboratory one, the cheap Chinese one. I don't say no to not use it. It's better than nothing. But here I recommend not to focus on the numbers, but focus on the trend. At the end, the most important thing is it's very important to adapt the fluctuations. Like you athletes are not robots, and of course there are different fluctuations that depends on the stress and sleep quality and other parameters. So, and also that is why it's important to use the roll averages rather than single session results. And sometimes athlete also sometimes actually I don't tell athletes the results of the test because they try to complain about this or feel sad. I remember when I was measuring everyday heart rate variability, we just started to measure it in 2012 using the First Beat software, and then it was telling me like the recovery is bad. And then when I was informing athlete that recovery was bad, he started to train less during the training, and the coach was saying me like, what you said him, he wasn't training at 100%. He was saying me that he's tired. And then we decided that better not to inform athlete about the results of the test, to not make uh, this problem, I would say, problems for the training process. But at the end, so we agreed with a coach that coach having data can change the training load for each athlete day by day. And also, I think one of the most important things in the nowadays, not to have the data overload, like to not to measure so many, like a lot of data and then don't understand what to do with them. If you measure just 1, 2, or 3 parameters, but you have a consistency in this measurement, so this is one of the most important thing. The consistency of the measurements, same condition, then try to have the same mindset of the athlete. For example, for VO2 max test is very important because VO2 max test is the test till the very end when the athlete cannot run anymore. So sometimes athlete doesn't do their best at this type of test if they are not ready for it, and they don't want to work hard in the test. So you need to prepare them for this. And then yes, it's important to adjust goals and connect the test with the practice. So what I recommend at the very end of the story, what is the most important thing that I want you to remember? It's very important for you to choose your test that you do during the long period, not 1 year, two, but during the really long period, Olympic cycle or 2 Olympic cycle. Then modify the training and connect it to the data that you receive, and combine the field and the lab testing.